Hello citizens and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to take a look at refinery decks and refinery gameplay and how they could have been done differently. As always, if you like this video, sacrifice a like and a comment to the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for more. And here's a shout out to our amazing patrons for their support of the channel and the Armory. Refinery decks and refinery gameplay have been around for a few years now, and mostly without change besides some adjustments to prices, times, and other values. But what if I told you that the core idea behind how refinery work is flawed? First, let's talk about how refinery decks work. Refinery decks combine a few functions into one physical space. There is a store where you can buy mining equipment and consumables. There is also a rental console where you can rent mining and cargo ships. And of course there's the refinery office, which allows you to sell or refine your ore. So let's talk about refining. Refinery decks are an extension of the mining gameplay loop. They allow you to refine the ore you mined into commodities and materials you can sell. Now, Star Citizen is a decision-based game. So what are the decisions that you can make at the refinery that affect the outcome? Well, technically there are only two. First, each refinery has different bonuses, meaning that each refinery can refine some materials better or worse. This affects the final yield from the raw ore. You can see this information in the refinery terminal. And by extension, your choice of refinery could affect which ores you're targeting when mining. And since the location rebalanced a few patches ago, it might even affect where you go mining. The second decision is which refining method are you going to choose. There are a lot of options to choose from, and there are three deciding factors: time, cost, and yield. These represent how long the refining is going to take, how much it's going to cost, and how much ore will get converted. In the refinery terminals, these are shown as text descriptions rather than numbers. So when you select a refining method, you will see something like time slow, cost moderate, yield high. You can also have the terminal calculate the final values based on the refinery, refining method, and the materials you choose to refine. So what's wrong with this idea? Well, on the surface it's fine, it works, but some of you might be asking, why do we have so many refining methods and why are some of them just bad? Meaning slow, expensive, and with a low yield. Well, the core idea behind this was explained in an episode of ISC many years ago, before refineries were released. CAG want to make it possible and even likely for you to make the wrong decision. And this is okay in the grand scheme of Star Citizen, especially for combat gameplay, but it doesn't exactly work for industrial gameplay and specifically not for refineries. Now, why is that? Players who focus on industrial gameplay are notorious for their data gathering. I am almost certain pretty much all of them have at least one spreadsheet to track something or calculate something else related to their main gameplay. But what does that have to do with anything? Well, with a bit of exploring and noting things into a spreadsheet, it would take an average player a few hours to figure out the system. They would know which refinery to go to and which refining method to use. This pretty much eliminates the use of any of the bad refining methods and funnels everyone to the few refining methods with high yields. This negates the possibility of making a bad decision and partially eliminates the randomness of the game. What I mean by that is that the ore you collect is somewhat random. Yes, you can target specific ores, but you never know exactly what you're going to get. But no matter what ore you collect, you are still going to use the same, most efficient refining method. At most, you might go to a different refinery to benefit from the yield bonus there. But if it's far away, most players are unlikely to make the journey, simply because it's more profitable to go on another mining trip rather than to travel across the system for a small yield bonus. So if CIG wanted to fix this, what can they do? Well, there is a simple solution and then there is a more in-depth rework. The simple solution would be to make refinery yield bonuses randomized and more drastic. For example, at the moment they usually are somewhere between -10% and +10%. I would maybe increase this range to -25% to +25%. This might be enough of an incentive for players to travel, and it creates a dynamic factor that promotes player movement between different areas. If CAG wanted to be fancy, they could make this dependent on what ores players are refining at a given location. For example, let's say that players are refining a lot of laranite at one of the refineries. So the refinery staff optimize their process for laranite, which would increase yield. This approach, on the other hand, rewards players for sticking to one area and allows them to have a direct impact on the verse. Something similar is actually already in effect. If a refinery is very busy, the price and duration of refinery jobs increase. But what about a more in-depth rework? The main problem of the current implementation is that players will never choose the wrong refining method, because it makes no sense to choose one that doesn't have a high yield. So how about we change the way refining methods work? How about instead of refining methods globally affecting time, cost, and yield, they would affect the yields of individual ores? So rather than just figuring out which refining method has the best yield and using that forever, you would have to figure out which refining method is the best for whatever ore you picked up. This creates a more dynamic feel to the refinery gameplay. It also adds some room for making mistakes and learning opportunities for less experienced players. It would take a while to learn the ins and outs of each refining method and learning how to leverage them to get the most out of every bag of ore. But if refining methods impact yield, then what do we do about refinery modifiers? We can't let them also impact yield because it could negate the refining methods. However, with the new refining methods, there is nothing affecting time and cost of each refining method. So you could select a few refining methods that each refinery is specialized in and make them cheaper and faster compared to the other ones. You could even make the difference pretty significant. This could potentially make it worthwhile for players to travel for refining. Now, this would be an interesting rework, but we have to think of it in the context of ship refineries coming into the game. We don't know much about ship refineries, besides that they have reactors and each reactor allows you to refine one batch of ore using a certain method, and that they will be much faster than station refineries. It will be interesting to see what refining methods are ship refineries going to offer and whether CAG go with a different approach than refinery decks. It's also possible that the release of ship refineries will come with a larger rework of refining and refinery gameplay and even mining. And with that being said, that's all for today. What do you think? Can refinery decks be more interesting? How are ship refineries going to impact refining? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Fly safe, and I will see you in the verse.